Okay, cool.
It is his hunch won the float. His public works hunch won the float. You'll hear it. Pastor Wells. So I said, just drive the road, pick her up. We'll hang out up there and have a good time. Hello, Mark. She's Vanna White, giving out the awards today.
Two police officers today been assaulted.
Somewhere else.
Well, Best Buy, and we're trying to get, the Best Buy, they got called there because of shoplifting. So the officer went to arrest the guy, and the guy punched him in the mouth or something like that. And then just now, somebody barricaded herself in, and when the officer attempted to arrest him, the officer got assaulted again. Yeah. They got him at 2400 block on the other side of the school. Well, they said they said they caught one, but they never alluded to if there was a second. They just said we got the one suspect. That's all they said. So nobody. I don't even know if there was two of them. They said they walked in, gave a note, and said we want money or whatever, and then
that was the wrong location. That was always full of people.
Like somebody told me on Sunday, I say right now, if I went to the homecoming parade or Christmas parade, I didn't realize the best days of
Doing the parade.
He said, because I think every police officer was there. And everybody in the city was there.
And another time is when they played the Louse and Rocket.
I remember laughing.
Number 10.
Going to call to order the December 8th, 2022 meeting of Mayor and Council. If I could get Pastor Mike Wells with New Covenant Church to lead us in prayer, and everybody remain standing for the pledge. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we come before you tonight, and I thank you for every public servant who is serving here. I pray a spirit of wisdom over each and every one of them. And Lord, I thank you for giving them the courage to lead according to your truth and justice, which are your foundation. Lord, I pray you give them the vision to lead and prepare for this next generation who will follow after us. Lord, I pray blessings over their families. I pray peace over their hearts and minds. And Lord, I just pray your protection over every one of them. And Lord, thank you for the honor that they all carry. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. You guys had booming speaking voices. That was fantastic. We're going to lead off in just a second with awards and presentations. Before I do, I'd like to recognize somebody in the audience. I'd like to recognize as he gets certified tomorrow, will be our councilman-elect for District 3, and we'll fill the remaining seat to our far left, my far left, your far right, and fill very big shoes, late, great Sonny Vickers. Thomas McIntyre, would you please stand up? Congratulations. Thank you for your willingness to serve as well. Now if I could have Ron Bythewood and DeMarcus Marshall with the Ossipee Temple to join me at the front, and Brandy, if you'd join me up there as well. Look at you.
It's red now. So you agree. Turn it off. Turn it back on there.
For the award winners for the floats, for the Great Valdosta Christmas Parade. Bill, white. Let's begin with third place.
Yes. So our third place winner is Powerhouse Outdoors. They're the third place winner. They're not here tonight, so we will register you for them. Our third place winner is, I'm sorry, our second place winner is Langdale Foods. Langdale Foods. All right, our first place winner is Lowndes County. Come on up.
On the plate.
Why is it I don't see this stuff?
About three of us come this way.
I called
They're gonna get all this.
and Mark said
What in the world? And I put my hat on.
be at the front. just so that we can.
He brought the whole department.
Welcome everybody, but that he's going to make it.
As they say, we are so divided, it's just so noticeable.
That's awesome.
It is,
Fantastic.
it is.
It's pretty cool.
What do you think? You just keep boss us.
What is it? I got to get another phone.
What's that? Be nice. We'll know next week how to bring so many.
Congratulations.
They had that.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Chairman.
Now you gotta step up your game next. I mean, what you gonna do from here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She can get a little animated. Yep, that's right. There, she's really doing a good job.
This is going to be a long one.
Gotta keep them two together. Pick one, you got an argument.
This is the first time I've seen where they didn't shop with the cops. They shop. That's good.
Ariana.
One more special award to the Mississippi Festival itself. It's the city coin. And it's a way to say thank you for all the joy that you bring to the city and others
behalf of Ossipee Temple, number 65, the local chapter here in Valdosta, Georgia, Prince Hall affiliated Shriners, we'd like to say thank you there to the city for allowing us consistently every year to assist with this important task. I don't know how many of you were there, or shall I say, how many of you were not there, because you missed the treat this year. I think it's one of the largest. We have a lot of participants already planning for next year, competing verbally. I've received numerous calls. We had one of our newest participants, which is one of the ladies of our auxiliary daughters that was dressed in all white. You know that? It's about 15 of them. They really enjoy themselves. And we're looking forward to next year making it bigger and better. Now, on behalf of Robert Cosby, he couldn't be here tonight. You know, he has been experiencing this every year. He takes it very, very seriously. Sometimes I think he takes it too seriously. He gets very upset when things don't go his way and it don't become a perfect situation. He couldn't be here tonight, Mayor, because he had surgery. On behalf of Ossipee Temple, number 65, again, thank you.
I will confirm, I've been involved with the parade for 32 years. It was the largest in participation, and it was the largest in the people lining the street as well that I've ever seen in the 32 years I've been involved. So we're back, baby. We're out. If I could get, for the next one, if I could get Jessica Stowe and Greg Brown to join me at the front. We have an employee of the month.
Start by saying, 10 years ago, I hired this lady, and it's been one of the best decisions I ever made. She's put up with me for 10 years. She definitely goes above and beyond, so I'll read the write-up. Every month, the City of Valdosta nominates several employees for Employee of the Month. A committee comes together, and they vote on it and pick that particular person for the month. So this is the write-up that I turned in. It says, Jessica Stowe has been employed as a purchasing technician for almost 10 years. She has an incredible work ethic, and her attendance and attention to detail are outstanding. She is very knowledgeable in regards to her duties and takes them very seriously. The reasons above demonstrate why she is an outstanding employee for the City of Valdosta. Now let me explain what makes her a worthy employee of the month nominee, where she goes above and beyond her duties. Jessica's been in college the past 4 years and is hopefully graduating at the end of the semester in December. Actually, tomorrow at noon, she will have completed that. Her career is very important to her, and this will take her to the next level. She does this while maintaining her 40-hour-a-week work schedule. There were several administrators, people recently in the utilities and the public works departments that left the city's employment. There were mostly admins that are responsible for entering purchasing information with regards to the day-to-day function of the department, as well as major construction projects. Jessica took it upon herself to run a training class for the new admins for the departments with regards to the New World System, purchasing and accounts payable module. Since Jessica and the admins interact daily, she felt there was a strong need to train them so that errors could be held to a minimum and they would not have to spend more time on making corrections. Some of the upper managers also attended, some of them were new as well, to familiarize themselves with the system process of purchasing, signing off on the purchases, and learning the process of what it takes to actually pay for the purchase, since some of them were new. All that attended said that it helped them understand the process better, and it was beneficial to attend. Jessica deals not only with the new admins, of course, but every department at some point of the purchasing process, and always is helpful and goes the extra mile to provide solutions. The purchasing office, located on the second floor in City Hall, has a fair amount of local citizens and out-of-town visitors during the workday. Purchasing is also responsible for answering the City Hall general phone line. Jessica goes above and beyond in directing visitors that are physically in the building, knocking on the door to assure that they are directed to the correct office, building, or even to another location, office site such as the county building. Likewise, she does the same for helping phone customers, even to the extent of looking up phone numbers or addresses on the internet for phone callers, for both local and out-of-town callers. She helps solve any problems that can possibly come along and take care of their business instead of ending the call with no assistance. For these reasons and many more, I would like to nominate Jessica Stowe for the prestigious City of Valdosta Employee of the Month Award.
When I see you on Monday, tell me whether this is cooler or Dr. Carvall. Dr. Carvall hands you your degree. But here's the plaque for your office. To honor you as employee of the month. Here's the check. To honor you as employee of the month. And of course, the plaque will go in the hallway with your name. Please, for all to see you're so excellent.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much.
Tighten up just a little bit.
She makes her 10th year on the 17th of this month as well.
You think I have a fan and Exactly.
It's all that. We good?
All right, we'll move on to item 3. This one will be quick. Valdosta City Council, the minutes approval for the Valdosta City Council special called meeting back on October 24th and on November 14th. Council, you've had time to look those over. Are there any changes or deletions to be made? Seeing none, hearing none, the minutes are approved by acclamation. Item 4, public hearings will begin now. Consideration of an ordinance for a conditional use permit for a personal care home in a residential professional zoning district, as requested by Blue Right Holdings. Matt Martin, our planning director, to present. Hi, Matt.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. First of 5 public hearings from Planning Commission. This one, as you say, is a conditional, well, get the technology in gear here. There we go. Conditional use permit request by Blue Right Holdings. As we talked about at the work session, it is the same applicant as the adjacent property came before you 15 months ago. It's for a personal care home for 6 elderly adults in RP zoning. Subject property is on the west side of Slater Street, as you see on the map. It is part of a much broader RP zoned area that many years ago was a historic residential neighborhood. It is still in the local historic district. The applicants are proposing no changes to the building, and it is essentially the identical request as before. As described in your packet, because of supplemental standards for personal care homes, i.e. having more than one on a particular block, this property did go through the variance process a couple months ago and received a variance that would make them eligible for conditional use. The character area is transitional neighborhood, which is largely indicative there of the RP zoning. Aerial imagery, you see the rooftops of the historic buildings. This used to be a professional office, as did the properties to the north. Those are existing parking lots in the rear yard. They all interconnect. There's about 6 or 7 parking spaces per building, which is more parking than is actually needed. Subject property, this is how you see it from Slater Street. The driveway between it and the building to the north. The building there on your right is the applicant's other property that was approved for personal care home 15 months ago. The shared parking in the rear yards. And then this is the north driveway, presumably the primary exit back out to Slater Street. Views up and down Slater, this is looking off to the north. You see the older trees and some of the older buildings. And then to the south, one single-family residence to the east directly across the street. And then a lot of the professional offices that still are in the area have their signage out front. Site plan is the same as what we saw 15 months ago. This is all existing conditions. And again, they're not proposing any changes. Planning Commission reviewed this at their public hearing on November 28th. They found the request consistent with the comprehensive plan, the conditional use review criteria, which are there in your packet, and they're recommending approval subject to 4 conditions. First one, approval shall be granted for a state-licensed and fully compliant personal care home with up to 6 residents at the facility. No other uses allowed in RP zoning shall be allowed on the property that are in addition to the personal care home. Number 2, all parking associated with the facility shall be located on-site and in the rear yard only. Number 3, there shall be no temporary signage, and permanent signs shall be limited to those which are allowed in the historic district under RP zoning and in accordance with the historic district design guidelines. Number 4, conditional use approval shall expire after 2 years from the date of approval if no city business license has been approved for the facility by that date. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Council, any questions for Matt? Matt, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing item. If there's anybody else at this time that would like to come forth and speak in favor of this request, please do so now. Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing none again, Council, it's yours for action.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we approve the request of the applicant with the 4 conditions as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Council, thank you very much. Item B, consideration of an ordinance for conditional use permit for a mini warehouse self-storage facility within the inner perimeter road corridor overlay district. Matt Martin to again present.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is along the east side of Inner Perimeter Road, a couple thousand feet south of US 84 or East Hill Avenue. As you see on the map on the screen, it is zoned M1, as are the properties to the north and south, and then the heavier M2 zoning across the street to the west. This is the designated industrial portion of Inner Perimeter Road. Unlike other conditional uses that we often see for many warehouses, those are conditional use requirements for a commercial zone. M1 zoning normally would allow this as a permitted use, but in this case it is the overlay district of Inner Perimeter Road that requires this public hearing review. Land use patterns will eventually mimic the zoning pattern you see, but character area also reflects industrial future land use to the south of US 84. Aerial imagery, there's a lot of vacant land that is here. There are some existing industrial uses to the north, but to point out the site is a little bit larger than it looks on some of these maps. This is 27.3 acres. Their proposed complex is about 10 acres of the site. The rest of it is consumed by Georgia Power easement and some other buildings. Subject property looks like this along Inner Perimeter Road, and that is a common view up and down a large part of that corridor south of 84. Zoomed in looking southward, this is the Big Noise Industrial Park toward the Hunt construction property, and then you see where the road goes upward in elevation. That is the overpass over the Norfolk Southern Railroad. And again, zoomed in, what you're seeing there is a little further away than it looks. Directly across the street to the west, vacant property, and then some of the industrial buildings to the north. Inner Perimeter Road Overlay District has architectural standards and some site design standards that apply to all forms of development, whether it's industrial or not. Applicant is, through their drawings, are demonstrating the desire to go above and beyond those minimums to work with a very large complex. You see the layout of the site. It's about 200,000 square feet of warehouse building. They are estimating about 700 rental units for storage, but of course that will depend on the size of the units. It is a mixture of both climate-controlled and regular storage units, and so those are those vertical buildings that you see. The buildings you see to the right, which is the southern part of the property, those are 10,000 square foot rental warehouses. Those are not part of the subject property in terms of the review. Those do not need conditional use approval. It is just the mini warehouses. They're tailoring some of their proposed design after the existing mini warehouse complex on North Valdosta Road that is behind Music Funeral Home. These are some photographs of that property. The main feature of their design is to maintain the metal buildings of for the walls, but to paint them dark green to match evergreen vegetation, which is what they're proposing to go in front of the wall. And the dark color is really there just to help it blend in. This is the existing storage on North Valdosta, and in some places the vegetation is a little more dense than others. This is the portion that's further back off the road. Schematic drawings in your packet include these, which just show a dense evergreen row of trees with shrubbery underneath. Stormwater detention would be in front of that. You see a mixed material for signage, and that is actually smaller in size than what they could otherwise request in the zoning district. Other views are just renderings showing a broader view of the front side of the building. And you zoom in on some of the signage that they're proposing. And then just as an extra, they're showing a schematic drawing of the front wall of those 10,000 square foot spec buildings, which will have a combination of brick and wood siding. Planning Commission also reviewed this at their meeting on November 28th. They found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, the conditional use review criteria that are in your packet. They're recommending approval subject to 5 conditions, some of which are a bit lengthy, but these are tailored after the conditions of approval that went with the mini warehouse complex on North Valdosta Road. I believe the applicant's engineer is here, but I'll be glad to answer questions you may have.
Council, any questions for Matt on this project?
I have one. Matt, with this being in the overlay district, are we able to make changes to this just like we could? Will we be able to do that anywhere in the overlay district?
They're still subject to the rules of the overlay. The only where it has overlapped is the condition about the metal siding on the front wall. That normally would be its own variance process, but what we're doing, since it's an integral part of their design, where they're requesting other features above and beyond, we simply made it a condition of approval.
Okay.
And so with that, there might be a few details in some of the other buildings. There's the issue of interparcel access, which will be addressed during site plan review, and a lot of that we can do administratively.
Council, any other questions? Matt, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing item, so if there's anybody that would like to come forward at this point and speak in favor of this request, please do so and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Nick Clark, 2944 Dasher Johnson Road. Like Matt said, he did a good job explaining what we're trying to do. I'm just here to answer any further questions y'all may have about the building.
Council, any questions for the builder?
Looks good.
We're impressed. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak in favor of this request? Seeing none, is there anybody who would like to come forward and speak in opposition to this request? Again, seeing none, council, it's yours for action.
Mr. Mayor, sir, I make a request that we approve this with 5 conditions stated by Mr. Matt Martin.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor, show of hands. All in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 4-2. Council, thank you. Item C, consideration of an ordinance to rezone 48.16 acres from planned mixed-use district to single-family residential R6. It's the James Road corridor. Matt Martin, again to present.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is rezoning from planned mixed development to single-family residential R6. We talked about the geography of this at the work session. What you see on the screen, which is the current zoning map, you see R6 zoning and CN zoning directly to the east in sort of an overall square shape. That was subject property for rezoning a few months ago, where it was approved for R6 and CN. It's the same applicant. They are looking to acquire additional acreage to the west to continue the R6 pattern westward. As we talked about, there was, of course, a proposal in between to vacate that one segment of Riverside Road. That one was denied, and it changed the applicant's proposed layout of the subdivision that they showed you during the rezoning process. To compensate for some of that change is where they're looking to add some additional lots. I think originally the proposal was around 250 lots total, with the northwestern triangle that we had talked about at the work session. In addition to the subject property, it's again about 250 lots. In your packet, of course, you have the zoning map. Character area remains the same as before. Neighborhood activity center. Aerial imagery shows the largely undeveloped nature of the surroundings. Again, just like one of the other maps, the scale is a little bit deceiving. This property is about 1,000 feet west of Riverside. The closest point, I think I measured it in GIS, at 720. So what you see from Riverside is the same view as if you were on the subject property, but you are many hundreds of feet away. So there's a lot of forest there. In your packet is also a survey drawing. The western edge of this property is approximately where the floodplain of the Withlacoochee River would begin. And then views, this is looking northward up Riverside Road. Subject property is about 750 feet off to the left. And then the view across the street, and then looking southward down Riverside. Riverside is an unpaved county-maintained road. And then for reference, remember from last year when we were looking at this, the PMD zoning that you see on the zoning map is part of a master plan that was approved in the form of a zoning change 15 years ago for a pretty large intensive development that we called Market Street. The subject property back then was this dark or black outlined square area in the bottom that was mixed use. You see commercial and residential both contemplated there. To the left of that was to be a continuation of the high density residential, which matches the applicant's proposal for R6 zoning. The densities pretty much match. So I put this here for reference as to where the current subject property sits in relation to the original master plan. What they are proposing for this subject property is what you see in the brown shaded lots on the left. The red shaded lots is their current design for that northwesterly triangular area, already zoned R6. It is not part of the subject property for this evening. It is the brown shaded area to the left. And there, as you can see, they're proposing this as one subdivision with interconnecting street pattern. And you see where they're proposing a required access that they have to the south to connect the property to the outside world. So with that, this is a rezoning request rather than a conditional use. So Planning Commission found this one consistent with the comprehensive plan, but this stands for exercise of zoning power, which are there in your packet, and they're recommending approval of the rezoning to R6. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Council, any questions for Matt?
Well, Matt, it's one question I didn't ask, and it's not, see the gray part right up under the brown there? Now, it's south of the brown, what I'm looking at. Is that county?
That is county. So if you look at the character area map, well, actually the zoning map is the best one to look at. Everything that is in light blue that's labeled PMD, plus everything in R6, which is the light brown colored area to the east, and that little strip of CN, that is all in the CH, that's all city limits. Everything that is green or yellow is county.
That's what I was bordering right there on county on both sides.
Right. And that goes back to 2007 when that giant master plan was proposed. The area that you see as R6 used to be blue as PMD, and all of that property was annexed and rezoned at one time to accommodate that master plan from 15 years ago. So it's been in the city limits for 15 years, zoned specifically for that master plan, and it never got developed.
Okay, one other question. That CON, what's that for?
The CN?
CON.
That's conservation zoning. That's a county zoning district. You usually see that along river floodplains.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And we still just split on the 150 houses now.
The design in your packet is 125 to 130 on each of those halves. It's just overall shaped a little differently, but I actually counted them up. and that's the number I got.
And we still have an interest in and out.
Correct. If these two are developed together, even if they're in phases, together they go above the 150 lot threshold. That triggers 3 connections with roads to the outside. What they're showing here is 2, which is enough to do the phase 1. When it comes time to add on the phase 2, they'll have to create a third one somewhere. And as we talked about at the work session, they have several choices of how to do that, even if it's in the form of stub outs. There's a lot of vacant acreage to the north and to the south that we have pointed out. That would be a logical choice to maybe have a phase 3 someday. It depends on the land use type. It's just way too early to tell what these neighboring properties are going to do.
Thank you, sir.
Council, any more questions for Matt? Matt, thank you. Again, a public hearing item. Anybody willing to come forth and speak in favor of this request, please do so now. Again, please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Council. Matthew Inman, Advanced Engineering Services, 4560 Val North Drive. And I'm the engineer for the project, and I'm here to answer any questions. Matt did a very good job of laying out everything for us. We do intend to have a third entrance, just not knowing how the next phase will be developed. We have a couple green spaces. There's a couple places near the back that would make that natural point for a third point of ingress and egress from the property to the adjacent properties. We are planning on using city water and sewer, which is on the map where the bend is at James Circle is where the water and sewer connection points will be. We'll have the water connection there going down the property. And then farther in the back, we'll have a lift station to push everything back up there for sewer. And then, of course, in the back near the river on the west end, we'll have all the detention, all the stormwater management on there. So everything's there for meeting all the ordinances, and we'll be working with Ben as far as figuring out where the best place for that third point of ingress and egress when we do the third phase, and this second phase to get 150 lots. But with that, if there's any other questions, I'm here to...
Talk faster than I do. Tell me your name again.
Matthew Inman.
Inman.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm Advanced Engineering Services.
Okay, I thought I talked fast, but you were faster than I do.
I've been told that more than once. Yes, ma'am.
Pretty aggressive timeline on getting started?
Yes, sir. As soon as they can get everything kind of together, we want to make sure we can do the second phase and go in there, master plan everything. Is that lift station, you don't want to build multiples of those. We want to build that one time. And if we know we're going to the rear, we want to put the lift station down the hill, just because we don't want to be building multiple lift stations for every phase we do out there.
Appreciate it. Council, any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak in favor of this request? Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to come forward and speak in opposition to this request? Again, please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening. William C. Morgan, 2181 Smith Street. Thank you, Brother Mayor. We do have some concerns about this project, and I want to introduce to you James Miller, who is going to voice those concerns. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is James Miller, 3505 Hidden Hills Drive, Valdosta, Georgia. Last week I had the privilege to speak with a young lady in her mid-70s who moved back to Valdosta from Chicago a couple of years ago to live in the house that she grew up shortly after her brother died. Her daughter lives in the house across the street from her. And it was during this conversation that I was reminded of one of the things that makes the city of Valdosta feel so special, and that's its people. Now, this is a factor that makes the Jones community very special, the fact that you can connect with a number of families that have been in the city of Valdosta, in the Jones community for 25, 50, 75, and in some cases more than 100 years. Now, I'm not sure what the benchmark is for calling something historic, but 100 plus years is a pretty long time in my book. Having said that, we understand that the tides of change are rolling in everywhere in the city of Valdosta and in the Joneses community. With this understanding, we're open to the initial rezoning request that was presented this summer to rezone approximately 16 acres from the PMD to the R6. And with this added light commercial that was going to be coming along James Road, we had the understanding that this would bring, of course, approximately 150 to 250 homes into this area. As a community, we have inquired about what's being developed in our community. Our engagement requests for information have netted no more from the developers than some of the pictures that we've been presented here in these zoning meetings. We are open to meaningful development, but we are highly concerned about what 150-plus single-family housing units with the additional of another proposed 150-plus highly concentrated housing units will do both to the city of Valdosta as well as our community. I would like to primarily highlight two major impact concerns that a blanket approval vote will have on our community. And for your consideration, I'd like to briefly just speak on one, the utility burden, and the other, the use burden. And then I'm going to move out of the way for others to comment. As a community, we have considered the burden of 300-plus homes will place on the main utility infrastructure of water, sewage, stormwater, and electricity. The PMD rendering shown earlier, the mixed-use development project, they had different uses placed in different demands on the site, the community as well as the infrastructure. In their presentations, the developers have been very quick to gloss over the necessary site improvements that will be required to properly serve this proposed development, single-family home development. A quick reference of the sewage flow rates defined by the U.S. standards for water usage and sewer strength, overlaid with the household size information provided by the U.S. Census Bureau for Valdosta, shows that the water and the sewer demand for an R6 residential community would easily be 3 to 6 times greater in volume than the previously proposed mixed-use development. In other words, the additional infrastructure costs to the city of Valdosta just to improve the underground water and sewer could conservatively double or triple the cost of the infrastructure improvements already expended. A quick look at the National Wetlands Inventory and the topographic maps for this area also show the substantial wetland and significant grade changes falling off of the site towards the river. Near the upper corner of this site, there's a 71-foot fall from Riverside Road towards the back of the initial first zone proposed area. For the sake of visualization, imagine being in the upper northwestern corner and you're standing on the rooftop of a 6-story building. You would be back near the street height level to walk along Riverside Road. For another point of reference, think about the grade changes and slopes that we have at our YMCA and multiply that by 1.5. There are people far smarter than I in this room that can easily calculate the runoff coefficients using the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual. And as a community, we remember the major flooding that occurred just a few years ago in the neighborhoods with the houses for Inglewood Drive as well as South Sherwood Drive. We're only assuming the additional infrastructure costs to manage this additional stormwater runoff will also be incurred, at least partially, by the city of Valdosta. Now, the development team has mentioned the intentions to add pump stations to facilitate the additional sewage produced by these additional 300-plus homes. Whether the site built or they're prefabricated, of course, we understand these pump stations require regular maintenance as well as an outside source of power to operate during this typical 20-year life cycle. Now, when we look at the use burden, as a community, we are highly concerned about the frequent conversion of our residential neighborhoods into rental housing. The National Association of Realtors had a report out that showed that average housing tenure was from 5 to 7 years. And so in 5 to 7 years, people will move out of their homes and into other residences. And the vacant homes are often converted into rental homes, especially with the recent flood of private equity money flowing into the single-family rentals market. As a community, we have seen the impact of this type of housing conversion in these densely developed areas. When we look at areas such as Blue Pool, you can search regularly and easily find 7 to 10 homes available for rent in Blue Pool for any given day. This has created a major devaluation of the surrounding areas. Now, we haven't discussed the traffic impact or other public service burdens or that another 300-plus homes would place on the city of Valdosta or our community. We have only looked at these two items, the utility burden and the use burden. Now, the people in the Joneses community have not been blatantly opposed to development. However, we are highly concerned about how that development takes place. With a limited perspective, we conservatively estimate that the city of Valdosta may have to invest an additional 3 to 4 times what has already been spent to create the infrastructure to support all of these housing units. I'm in agreement with Mr. Martin. A few meetings ago, he stated that he would like to see more creativity in how the rezoning of this PMD is developed. As a community, we understand that once the rezoning takes place, there is usually little, if any, public consideration about the use as long as the project fits within the defined zoning parameters. As the deciding committee, if If you make the decision to approve these rezoning requests, the Jones community asks you to add a land use restriction that to prevent these homes from becoming rental properties in the next 20, 25 years. Ideally, we'd like to see this committee decide to table this whole rezoning request for a while, at least until we can see the developers take advantage of the already proposed and already approved rezoning requests from this summer, where we can kind of see what they are building and understand the real cost and the real impact of the project and what that will be for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Council, any questions for Mr. Morgan or Mr. Miller? Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward and speak in opposition of this request at this time?
Mr. Mayor, if I might just re-emphasize, we would like to make sure that these homes are not turned into rental property, because when they do, the devaluing of the property, of course, is almost instant. And then you have the crime. There's so much to consider if it turns into rental property.
Understood.
So we'd like to make that concession on this particular issue.
Pastor, thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak in opposition to this request at this time? Again, seeing none, it's yours for action, Council.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the request as stated.
Second.
A motion and a second before us. Any further comment?
Mayor, it might be important for the city attorney or Matt Martin to speak to us being able to condition this zoning to keep out rentals, because we can't.
That is accurate. The city is the government. The city cannot do that. We have a fair housing act like more than likely. A private party who develops this, they have the option to do that. The city is the government.
That's what I wanted to add.
All right.
So since we can't put that restriction in, can I make a motion to table this until further notice?
We've got a motion on the table.
All right.
Got a motion before us. Any further comments? All in favor of this motion, signify by raising your hand. All in opposition, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Council. Item D, consideration of an ordinance to grant planned development approval for a single-family attached residential development as requested by Stoker Utilities, LLC. Matt Martin again to present.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This one is not a rezoning request, but it is a planned development. And as you know, it's more akin to a conditional use in a floating sense. It's an overlay approval. Subject property is zoned single-family residential R6. It is everything on the east side of North Forest Street Extension between Branch Point Drive and Knights Academy Road. As you see on the broader map, a lot of R6 zoning that is actually conditional R6 that goes back to 15 years ago when it was annexed and rezoned. The condition on the zoning is a range of lot sizes that's required for all of the subdivisions here collectively. So as we talked about in the work session, it is staff's duty to keep up with the running totals. The original master plan from 2007 showed all of this as a conventional single-family subdivision. It was conceptual. They did not do their measurements very carefully. And so the applicant has discovered when trying to lay out this next phase of the subdivision that what was to be two more streets running north-south parallel to Green Hill Drive with their lots on both sides would not fit here. So the applicant is proposing to do a conventional strip of R6 just like Green Hill that you see on the map in that eastern third. And then on the western third, where the property is more constrained, to do the same number of dwelling units, but in the form of a non-conventional single-family attached as a townhouse style. It is the same density as what otherwise probably would have been contemplated. Character area shows suburban area up in this part of the city. That green dashed line for reference is the current city limit boundary. Aerial imagery, you see this property in the area to the north and to the east as cultivated fields. forested area to the west, and then Bemis Road on the other side of that. Survey shows the differences in the sizes of the two tracts as they relate to Green Hill Drive. Photographs, this is the subject property looking southeast from the corner of Branch Point and North Forest Extension. Little zoomed in view of the fields, and this is the view looking southward from Branch Point. Adjacent properties to the north is still the same original farm area. You see the Branch Point subdivision there in the background in the distance. And this is Green Hill Drive, which was developed in the 2010-2011 timeframe, conventional R6 subdivision. Subject property to the south along Knights Academy is one of the few remaining rural residences in the area, pretty much screened from view from the road. Master plan in your packet shows Tract 1 and Tract 2. However, Tract 1 is the subject property for the planned development. Tract 2 is put on there as comparison. You see how it mirror images Green Hill Drive. They're proposing to build Tract 1 first as the townhouses. Very attractive buildings facing the interior of the site. So the only access to North Forest will be that one entrance drive that you see that wraps through the interior of the property. These will be two-story townhouses with two-car garages, lots of open space. The applicant has gone above and beyond to also include a buffer yard between this and the future single-family subdivision phase to the east. Normally not required by code because they're the same zoning, but they're showing that as a buffer yard there, and it's really to augment even their own open space. Building facade designs in your packet include a 6-unit building looking like this. You see the width of the two-car garages, and then some of the smaller buildings there, but mainly the purpose of this is to show some variety in the architectural details that they're contemplating. So with this one, Planning Commission reviewed it at their public hearing on November 28th. They found it consistent with the comprehensive plan. The plan development review criteria there in your packet. They're recommending approval subject to 7 conditions, and also with the deviations listed in your packet. Those are very minor in scope, and those pertain to the particulars of conventional townhouses. They have followed the intent of all of the requirements to the T. It's just the confinement of the property keeps them from meeting lot length requirement and width of the units, but the overall design certainly matches what would otherwise be conventional townhouses. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. In the interest of time, we've gone through these conditions at the work session. They're pretty straightforward, but I'll be glad to answer questions you may have.
Council questions for Matt? Matt, thank you. Again, a public hearing item. Is there anybody at this time that would like to come forward and speak in favor of this request? Again, state your name for the record.
I'll try to do it slow this time. Good evening again. My name is Matthew Inman, 4560 Val North Drive, and I'm the engineer for the project for this one also. As Matt mentioned, the property we have is not the dimension and size to be able to do a traditional single-family home, single-family residence of that. I would point out that the previous phase we're doing is 41 homes. There's 42 townhouses proposed with this, so it's a very similar type zoning, similar density to what we would have if we had. There's 41 on that track 2 shown there, and we're proposing 42 for our development. So very, very similar. It would be an extension and expansion of the existing stormwater pond there at the corner of Forest and Knights Academy. Existing utilities and all in the area will connect to city utilities. As Matt mentioned in the previous discussions, it's a good transition of this from the commercial that was just along Bemis Road and extend over to Forest Street extension, and and then kind of a buffer between that and single-family residential that exists further away from that. So, with that, any questions you guys have, I'm here for.
Council, any questions?
Did I better this time, Ms. Miller-Cody?
You did great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I just want to ask one question. I was just looking at some of that, and you were talking about the part in the southern, the track 1, more or less is what you were mentioning right now.
That's a new phase.
Okay, that's the one where the townhouse is going to be, right?
Yes, track 1 and track 2 are new phases. Track 2 is a new single-family subdivision.
Okay, and I was just kind of looking at that to try to see if it was bordering also on county land, but it's not. Or is it?
I was like, yeah. Just on the other side of that is the county. The bottom part of the sheet there
Right.
is the county.
That's what I was thinking. They might try that de-annex like the rest of them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
This would be north and south, if that makes it easier to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for Matthew? Matthew, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else at this time that would like to speak in favor of this request? Seeing none, is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward.
Mm-hmm.
You take your time.
My name is Linda Battle.
One
And I'm
more
playing
time at the microphone, Clint.
I didn't hear you.
State your name, please.
I said I'm Linda Battle.
Thank you.
And I'm considering getting a house in the Joneses suburb. And I was wondering if you guys had thought about getting someone to go through there with a video and take pictures of some of the houses out there, and you will see the importance and the value of what these people are fighting for.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're not talking about this.
That's what I was wondering. Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, no, we're not.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Thank you. All right, council, it's yours for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this as presented with the 7 conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second before us. Any further comment? All in favor, show of hands. And that was unanimous, correct?
Yes. We made that tough on you.
Can't count that up. All right, we'll move on. We're to item E, consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 222, off-street parking standards of the City of Valdosta's land development regulations, and Matt Martin will once again explain what that is.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amendment to the LDR. We're doing a first reading, second reading with these amendments. There's no action on this to be taken tonight, and the second reading would be our next regular meeting in January. We went over the amendments in pretty good detail at the work session. We're still in the open and the comment period, and we're planning to bring it back to you in January.
Council, any questions for Matt on that? No questions? Public hearing item. Is there anybody that would like to come forward at this time and speak in favor of this request? It still falls into public hearing, correct? Seeing none, anybody that would like to come forward and speak in opposition? First reading is...
The advertising. We're still going to do the advertising.
Correct. All right, we're going to move on to bids, contracts, agreements, and expenditures. Item A, consideration of bids for one dump truck for the Utilities Department. Greg Brown, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First one for consideration is 19-22-23. This is for a dump truck that is in the current motor pool budget approved by council. The Utilities Department needs to replace a truck that's 27 years old. It is a 1995 model F800. The maintenance costs have risen over time. The body's about eat up, and it's just time to replace it. There's nothing we can do much for it. It sits out at the maintenance center a good bit. So we approved $115,000 in the budget. We received bids on November 29th, and due to the economy with the vehicles, we're still into that situation, but we did come in under budget. Wade Ford was the bidder, $95,155, and that would be my recommendation.
Council, any questions for Greg? None? Thank you.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Second bid tonight is 242223. This is for a 26,000-pound truck that is responsible for moving our sway car trailers around as well as dumping them. This is for the residential division of the Public Works Department. The truck is a 2008 Ford F-650. $150,000 was in the current motor pool budget. This truck actually sits at the maintenance center with a blown engine, as well as they have robbed some parts off to keep other trucks going, so it's shot. Sealed bids were received on November 29th again. The low bid that met specifications came in from Solid Waste Applied Technologies and for $130,500, and that would be the recommended vendor as well.
Council, any questions for Greg on this one?
Was there a contingency on it?
No contingencies. This is the price.
Okay, because I was looking at that 20,000 on the other one. Okay.
No, we're just under budget, so it's no contingencies on vehicles.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you. All right, item C, consideration of a request to renew a contract for misdemeanor probation services for the City of Valdosta's Municipal Court. The Honorable Judge Jeremy Baker to present.
Good afternoon, Mayor,
Got it in.
Council, City Manager, and Deputy City Managers as well. Currently, the Municipal Court has a contract with Georgia Probation Management as its probation provider. Our contract with GPM is set to expire on December the 31st.
Is he okay?
Set to expire December 31st, 2022. GPM has proposed a new agreement with a flat $5 increase a month for probationers. With this increase, GPM will provide additional technological services that will make the court, we believe, more efficient and transparent.
Council, any questions for the judge? Judge, thank you. Council, it's yours for action.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the request.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments? How about an enthusiastic show of hands? Well done, Judge. All right, we'll move on to item D, consideration of bids for the Exit 16 Gateway Improvement Project. Then no doubt our city engineer to make it sound pretty.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager, and of course the Deputy City Managers. I'll just go over this brief summary of what we spoke about before. The Gateway project is one that's been around for a while. We've been trying to tackle it for a long time. The reason I'm bringing it to you now is we have the special encroachment permit that we've applied for via GDOT. That special encroachment permit is expiring at the end of this year. We've secured an extension for the grant funding that GDOT has graciously given us, and that is requiring us to be complete construction by the end of next year. I'll go over the bid summary. The project was rebid for this iteration in January of this year. 4 contractors attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting, and we received one bid in the amount of $551,904, including the contingency, 10% contingency of $55,780.40. This would bring the total cost of the project to $613,584.40. And staff recommends that we approve this project. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, any questions on this project?
I just have, I guess, a question to say that I think that's an awful lot of money, over $500,000 for those 2 signs that they're going to put out there. I mean, I know what we're saying. You want to get it in now because of the extension. Yes, the extension that GDOT gave us for was from what time?
The extension that GDOT gave us was for the utilization of the grant funding only. The actual permit expires at the end of this year. So in order to take action and utilize the permit that we currently have, we need to have the pre-bid meeting and the contractor checklist filled out before the end of the year. Those items are scheduled to occur after this meeting in the event that you do approve.
Ben,
Yes, sir.
how many, can you go, Teresa, can you go to the page where isn't there 4 entities that are putting money into this?
Yes, so
So this is
project
being
itself
paid out of
is-
5 different areas.
Yes, so the project itself is jointly funded, a combination of SPLOST 8 funding, Valdosta Tree Commission funding, GDOT Gateway Beautification Enhancement Program grant funding, as well as the Valdosta Lowndes Tourism Authority is pitching in as well.
I got you. So it's not just one, like the city of Valdosta as a whole, just.
Correct.
directly put-
Yes, it's jointly funded.
And I understand that too, but tell me now, the splash money come from the citizens of Valdosta?
Yes, the SPLOST is this,
Oh, you said
the
no, but he said
1% sales tax.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay, and the tourism money comes from where you get money from the hotels and stuff like that. That's what I was just looking at, is what all, the amount of money that the citizens are having to
Yes,
put
ma'am.
out for that. But you wouldn't by chance know how much coming from the splash?
As detailed on
there.
page
189,
Roughly-
198.
Yeah. Roughly 400,000.
$500,000 for that little 2 signs that they're putting out there, and we had, you said maybe like 1 bid, even though you put out for that.
Yes, ma'am,
I think
that-
that's an exactly, I mean, I guess looking at a lot of other ones and everything too, I feel like you did look at pricing as well.
Yes, ma'am, and to your point, when the project was initially put out to bid, we received 1 bid as well, and that was for the cost of $456,167.45, and that was from the earlier bid, which, when you count inflation, that earlier bid supports this second bid, and they're 2 separate bidders that we received those from.
Okay, it was 2 separate.
Yes, ma'am.
And was Artesian one of them?
Artesian is the most recent one. If we approve this tonight, then Artesian would be the general contractor that's doing the work.
I was just saying, were they one of the ones from the first time with the 450?
No, the first contractor was JWA.
Artesian is the guys that built our beautiful Unity Park.
Yes, sir.
Right. That's fine.
Any further questions for Ben?
Anything at all?
Anything at all? All right, Ben, thank you. Council, it's yours for action.
I make a motion to approve the bid as stated.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments on this project? All in favor, show of hands. All in opposition, like sign. Motion carries 5-1. Council, thank you. Ben, thank you. Next item is consideration of a request to approve an agreement with Red Speed for a traffic safety camera program. Our fantastic police chief, Leslie Manahan, will present. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Tuesday night, Greg Parks spoke with everybody about Red Speed and everything they had to offer. And as he mentioned, in May of 2018, the governor of the state of Georgia signed House Bill 978 into law, which resulted in the official code of Georgia annotated section 40-14-18 taking into effect on July 1st of 2018. This code section is titled Enforcement of Speed Limit in School Zones with Recorded Images, Civil Monetary Penalty, Vehicle Registration, and Transfer of Title Restrictions for Failure to Pay Penalty. And this allows for speed enforcement in schools by using photography recorded images for the violation, which results in a citation for the alleged violation to be issued to the registered owner of the vehicle. Red Speed Georgia LLC, at no expense to the city of Valdosta, provides the speed photo enforcement system, which places the traffic enforcement cameras in the school zones. These cameras identify and photograph vehicles along with their license plate information who are alleged to have exceeded the speed limit inside the school zones. Red Speed will confirm the citations, and then certified police officers with the Valdosta Police Department will validate the citations before they're sent out in the mail. All of these citations are a set fine, which is set to the registered owner of the vehicle, and if a person issued and mailed a citation fails to pay the civil monetary penalty, their information is referred to the Department of Revenue, which will prohibit the renewal of their license plate and prohibits them to be able to transfer their title to someone else. This photo enforcement system will assist the Valdosta Police Department in providing a safer school zone for students who are walking in the area. As I spoke to you Tuesday night, based off the Red Speed traffic study that they conducted on October 28th, along with our 2022 annual school crossing guard report, we did identify 3 school zones as having a higher concentration of pedestrians along with numerous traffic violations. The first school was Pineville Elementary, which has the average of 238 children crossing in a day with 129 violations recorded. W.G. Nunn Elementary has an average of 150 children crossing a day with 114 violations recorded. S.L. Mason has the average of 215 children crossing a day with 77 violations recorded. And all 3 of these school zones were identified due to the small age of the children that are crossing on a daily basis. So what we're asking is that you approve the agreement of a year with Red Speed for the speed photo enforcement. I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
Chief Melanie, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
We're just going to start with those 3 schools, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That was everything is green light.
Put some good old-fashioned radar in Valdosta Middle, though.
Yes, sir.
All right, any further questions for the chief? Chief, thank you. Council, it's yours for action.
Thank you.
Mayor, I apologize. Council?
To the extent you approve the professional services agreement, approve the one that I handed you, such as the red line version, and the condition, if there's any restrictions on speed enforcement, I heard Tuesday night going 10 and over, 10 miles per hour. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what it has to be according to.
That's what he presented.
And I believe this wording
right.
was in excess of 10, so I think that's
It's in
11 miles
excess of
an hour.
10. According to Greg, that we set the speed
Right.
limit, so it would be at 11 over.
11 over.
So it's 10 miles and over.
11 over.
Yes.
11, it's got to be 11. It's got to be greater than 10.
Correct.
There's no restriction, but
Correct.
you're saying in this motion, we won't enforce it.
Wait a minute, I'm hearing 2 things. You're saying 10 or greater than 10. If you 10, then...
Over
You got
10.
it.
Over 10. That's what I'm understanding.
Georgia law, like typically, anybody, law enforcement agencies with the exception of Georgia State Patrol and state agencies cannot write a speeding ticket unless the individual is doing it.
Right.
Correct.
But they can if they're excused. So technically, if this company wanted to send a ticket to somebody running 5 over, they could. So we need to make a statement here that says we're only agreeing to speed 40 to 10. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that one better.
In case anybody wondered why out in front of Valdosta High School, it's 55 posted and 55 on the school zone. You just learned.
Okay, I'm still hearing that. You saying 10, he said it has to be excess and at greater than 10, right? It has to be 11.
Not in the school zone.
Okay, so not in the school zone. Gotcha.
Mr. Tanner, do you still, I know when you reviewed the contract, that was your thought as well to make this into an ordinance, even though it is a pilot program? And so we'll bring an ordinance forth in January for your approval, but we're going to approve the contract tonight in order that the infrastructure can be placed and Red Speed can do their job, but the city attorney did feel the need for an ordinance, and we'll bring that forth to you in January.
Yes, Martin, their actual ordinance or their agreement provided in several paragraphs down that we had adopted an ordinance and have not. So I put that we shall adopt an ordinance. And if you flip over to the 3rd page in the initial term and termination clause, you can see where I gave that this agreement's not effective until later, January 31st, or 15 days after the passage of said ordinance. I gave us kind of for their sake, I said we'll pass it or deny it on March 15th. So this is not effective until.
And this gives us time as well as for marketing that we talked about Tuesday evening as well, to get the marketing scheme going and get it out to the citizens so they won't be blindsided by the project.
So we won't give them a ticket until
11 miles.
11. And about the date?
And approval.
Yeah, the way it reads is, obviously, this won't be effective until we pass that ordinance, which would be, at least the second meeting in January. But it also, you will not start issuing tickets until the first notice of violation is sent out. And they can't send a notice of violation for all that equipment.
But in the meantime, it allows us now to go ahead and start letting folks know that, hey, this is coming out
Yeah,
60, 90 days down the road.
Okay. I just want them notified. I don't want,
Yes, ma'am.
to start popping them. But, yes, ma'am.
Council, any further questions for Chief? Yours for
Presentation, Chief.
yours for action.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the request as stated.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comments?
Yes.
Please.
Do we need to incorporate into the motion that it includes those discussions and items pointed out by the city attorney and city manager?
Yeah, one, that we're approving the red line version. Number two, that no speed enforcement by photographic means upon individuals traveling only speed enforcement.
Excess of 10 miles.
In excess of 10, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So council to amend?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the tickets being issued in greater than 10 miles an hour and also the approval of the red line in our contract.
Second.
Yeah.
No.
Greater than, in excess of 10 miles an hour.
Over the speed limit.
There you go.
Over the speed limit.
Okay, question. Can I still give my second?
Motion?
Yes.
Second.
And a second.
We got a question.
No, you seconded, it's our question.
We'll do it in comments. Go ahead and second. I have a motion before us.
Okay, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
I have a question.
Please.
This is not yet an ordinance until after March.
This is just an agreement.
Right, and it's not an ordinance that the city has made, right.
And in the version, it's not effective until we pass that.
So we won't be giving out tickets before then.
Any further comments?
Thank you.
All in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous? Council, thank you. Chief, thank you. Item B, consideration of a request for the replacement of filter cloths at the Withlacoochee wastewater treatment control plant. Oh, I skipped. Richard, you get to go last. You're kind of a stud anyway. Bradley Air, Director of Utilities, to present. Hi, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. This agenda item is the consideration of a request to replace filter cloths at the Withlacoochee Water Pollution Control Plant. And these are the little filter cloths that go over the effluent filter discs at the point where the water is treated and discharged. A little bit of history. On July 27, 2022, it was determined that there were a number of effluent filter cloth socks on filter unit number 2 of the plant, located at 3180 Wetherington Lane, that would need to be replaced, showing advanced signs of wear. The city previously purchased new filter socks in January of 2019. The filter socks for all 3 filters were installed in the summer of 2019.
Excuse me.
The life expectancy of the filter socks is 3 to 5 years. And I'll just point out, too, that the warranty when the filter socks are installed is 3 years from the install date. So we're currently at 3.5 years, so, but we expected to get, 4 or 5 years. After inspection of the other filter units, it was determined that the remaining 192 filter socks would need to be replaced because of the advanced wear. Facts and issues: due to normal wear and tear conditions of the existing filter cloths, it was determined that it's necessary to replace the worn and torn socks to maintain normal wastewater treatment processes and maintain proper BOD permit limits. The agenda item is submitted to authorize payment to Aqua Aerobic Systems, Inc. in the amount of $67,000
and $8 to purchase the full complement of the filter cloths. Options, number one, recommend the authorization to be approved for this sole source purchase of all 192 filter cloths in the amount of $67,008 to Aqua Aerobic, or do not authorize. These replacements are due to normal wear and tear, and like I said, we got about 3.5 years of service out of these filter cloths, and it's something that we'll have to replace approximately 3 to 5 years. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Council, any questions for Brad? Thank you, Brad. Okay. Council, it's yours for action.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we approve the request for the replacement of the filter cloth with the price as stated.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, show of hands. All in favor?
Sorry.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Close out that portion of the meeting. We'll move on to item 7, citizens. No, I'm past it, blowing past Richard. And it's important, too. If you'll back up with me to item 6, local funding. Item A, consideration of a request to approve the Valdosta On-Demand Safety Plan. Richard Hardy to present.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This safety plan was approved last year, 2021, by Council, and is a FTA annual requirement. This plan assigns responsibility, provides guidance, establishes policies, and outlines safety procedures required by FTA and GDOT when expending 5307 grant funds. This plan will allow the city to adhere to FTA and GDOT safety requirements while operating an FTA-funded transit system. Staff recommends approval of the safety plan. Prepared to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for Richard? Richard, thank you. Council, it's yours for action.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Stated.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments? None. All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Council, thank you. Now we'll move on to citizens to be heard. This is the portion of the meeting we ask you to come forward and state your name and address so we may have it for the record. Our policy requires that you stay under 3 minutes so that others have time to be heard. Please direct all comments to council as a whole and do not attempt to engage individual members in debate. It is council's policy to follow through with you on your concern. Additionally, we ask any groups that want to address the council designate one spokesperson, again, so that all have time to be heard. With that being said, is there any citizens to be heard tonight? Please come forward.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and councilpersons. I'm Wanda Bennett. I'm at 4 Pinedale Circle, Valdosta, Georgia, 31602. I had recently, earlier part of this year, I had contacted, I had made concerns about in my area where I live on Pinedale Circle, there's a Langdale Drive runs vertical to where I'm at, and there have been some concerns of considerable speeding that runs along that corridor there. There have been a couple of accidents there previously this year. It was pretty much around the summertime, there were a couple of accidents there, and then there was once a dog was ran over. I did go to someone in the city about it, and there was a study that was conducted, and it was found that there's been considerable speeding along that area. Because of where I live at, I was told that I should get signatures from residents that live like in the McAfee area because of the way that it abuts. But is there another type of mechanism that can be used where we can get speed bumps in the area? I don't know. I mean, is there anything perhaps that can be done, because it's a lot of speeding going on there. I mean, I don't, to me personally, I'm a clean energy advocate. So to me, it would slow down greenhouse emissions if you just get the greenhouse, get the speed bumps there just to slow the cars down, so there would be a little bit less, smoke going. Anything that we can get speed bumps in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda.
What's your name again, last name, Ms. Wanda?
Bennett. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens to be heard at this time? Please come forward and state your name and address. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. My name is Marion Ramsey, 605 Monroe Street. So I just come to, I'm the president of a nonprofit called One Nation of Power, and we are throwing a Stop the Violence chess tournament coming up this Saturday. And it's going to be at the Lona and Gladys Event Center over there, right on the corner of Troop and Martin Luther King. So I just come to invite you guys for, you chess gurus or anybody whose kid might be interested in chess. One Nation of Power is a nonprofit. We total focus on, the youth, mental, physical, and health well-being. We are a bridge nonprofit that get troubled youth to professional counseling and help. We also offer boxing program and chess program to try to get the kids to think about stuff mentally. So I just come to invite you guys, if any of you would like to come and compete in our chess tournament, please, you're all welcome. Thank you.
What time does it begin?
It begins at 11 o'clock. It ends at around 4 is 5. All right.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizens to be heard at this time? We'll now close out this portion of the council meeting and turn it over to Mark Barber for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with this. If the city of Valdosta has not put everybody in the Christmas spirit thus far, I don't know what we can do to get you into the Christmas spirit. The tree lighting ceremony Friday was tremendous. We had a wonderful turnout for those of you that attended. There were so many city employees that did so much work, Brandy and Shara, but I really got to hand it out to our public works crew. They spent weeks out there doing this. And while they were doing it, we didn't miss a trash pickup or something not being mowed. They got it all worked together, and just a very proud moment for the city of Valdosta, I think, Friday evening. Very proud. Saturday, the parade, oh my goodness, Mississippi Temple, as always, does a wonderful job. And it was my honor and privilege to serve as the Grand Marshal this year, and that's kind of been the highlight of my career thus far, just to be honest, because that's normally not my thing to do, but I kind of got into waving everybody and saying Merry Christmas. So I do appreciate the Mississippi Temple. They do a wonderful, wonderful job. I won't speak too much to this, but we had a wonderful celebration today with the Parkwood Development residents. I know Mayor and Ms. Cody will probably want to comment on that, so that's all I'll say there. But Council and Mayor invited to a crisis management luncheon with Ms. Bikes, Director of Public Affairs with the Atlanta Police Department on December 15th at 11:30 at Coleman Talley office. Again, that's December 15th, 11:30 at Coleman Talley. And then the bird supper, go ahead and get it on your calendar if you don't have it already in your calendar. It's going to be February 1st of 2023, same place. We always have it, Char. Okay. So just get that. That's always a fun time as well. So go ahead and mark your calendars, and that's it, Mayor.
Well done. As we've heard tonight, just in regular council business and in Mark's report too, that there is a lot of good things happening in the city of Valdosta, a lot of growth as well. Thank you, everybody, for your incredible efforts. And yes, the mayor's motorcade and the efforts of the firefighters and our public information office, and it just was fantastic as we made life and Christmas brighter for a whole lot of great folks at Parkwood Development Center as well. And as many smiles from our firefighters and council and mayor as well. It was wonderful. And that's all I have for tonight. She's here too, isn't she? And before I give it up to council for their comments to Samantha Matthews, please come forward. Speaking of so many good things happening in this, in this city as well, two grant applications and two congratulations for you. very much. And please share with everybody, one, the music and other.
Right, with your help, thank you, Mayor, Council, and Manager. With your help and with the City of Valdosta's help, we have won the 11 AMP grant, so that brings us $60,000 every year for 3 years for outdoor live music at the Turner Center for the Arts. What was the second one?
And then please, the Children's Imagination Station, a brief overview.
Children's Imagination Station, we are embarking on our first $1 million of fundraising out of $6 million that we have left to go. I mean, well, no, $6 million total for the Children's Imagination Station, but we, without, I hate to say without even trying, because it is hard work to ask people to give that much money, but they believe in it. Everyone we've spoken to, beginning with our legislative luncheon on November 18th, thank you for those of you who attended. We had a great turnout today. We entertained Les Goodman and John Corbett and, you know, a few others from even Governor Kemp's office. It was just absolutely awesome. Everyone we talked to, they're so on board with this, what we'll bring into the community as well as our region and our state as far as STEAM and STEM activities for our children and their future. So wonderful. But one more thing, do you have any questions about the Children's Imagination Station?
Not at all. It's a wonderful project.
Okay, wonderful. We have vision books for those of you who weren't there. I would be happy to deliver them to you. The last thing is I applied for a grant for our murals program. So as the mayor and our Main Street manager and me will be going to a 3-day conference in Thomasville to talk about how to build our community up with these murals and how to access money to make that happen. So that'll be in February. So a lot of great things going on. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the arts.
Samantha, thank you for your leadership with the
You're welcome. My pleasure. Yes, sir.
One moment before she steps away, since she's not going to take advantage of the microphone to do a plug, I will do it for her. But my wife and I had a delightful time yesterday shopping at the Art Center.
Of course.
For some Christmas gifts and made several selections. So if you have not considered the Art Center for Christmas, please do.
Shop local and shop creatively. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Council, any further comments?
That's our council comment? Oh.
Council comments.
I really want to say I have been enjoying a lot of our Christmas festivals, and I personally got to say thank you to Miss Brandy and whoever helped with the gift. I love the gift that I got out there at Unity Park. Awesome. I said, wow, that was a nice package you put together. Thank you so very much for that. And do thank all of our staff, because it is beautiful. I still like riding around, looking at it, and a lot of people are talking about it. That's a nice thing, how you set it up out there. And we're going to keep it positive over there. It's been real nice. I've been seeing children and other people all along during the day and everything. They're just enjoying it. So that's a very good thing. And now we got to get them. Well, never mind. I won't say that yet, but it's nice. Thank you.
Councilwoman, thank you very much.
Tomorrow, I'm going to use my husband's truck, and I'm going to go around and pick up all those signs. So if you see me out there, I didn't put them out, but it's ridiculous. We want the city of Valdosta to stay clean. We as council members, we have to go beyond sometimes and help the public works and et cetera clean up our city. It's like clean up your home, around your own front door, if you want other people to come in your town. So that's what I'm going to try to do tomorrow. So if you see me out, stop and help me. But again, I want to say today, Chief Botwell, I'm like a kid in a candy store.